Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above by your Sibling Spirit Guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hey Maureen, hey everyone, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian. We're so happy to be here. If you can believe it, on this podcast, we share daily channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, mythical beings who really exist, and occasionally our ancestors. And today's topic is connections, the central sun, and the Federation. Brian, I feel like when we talk about the Federation, wasn't the Federation on Star Trek?
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not a Trekkie, but it sounds like something that was on Star Trek, probably. So yeah, I mean, like we know, a lot of this comes from a lot of entertainment, comes from above. So it's not surprising that it's has a lot of actually reality based. Not that it's all reality based, but aspects of it are, I should say.
I read something years ago that forget who the creator of Star Trek was, but that was like channeled material. That all that stuff is again, it's like the Matrix. That it's like a documentary. It's not,
Yeah, I think I read the same thing. I wonder which book it was, but yeah, I think I remember the same thing.
was it Gene? I can't remember the name of the guy, but anyway, that was all channeled and it was purposefully come into this world for us to see, another reality. So anyway, I'll kick us off with connections, groups, and reptilians. They begin by saying the individual life is a misnomer, for all experiences are shared. Think of how a simple embrace can change another and lighten the other's mood, form a deeper connection within oneself. For every action has a reaction, as your science has indicated. In this way, no experience is individual. So I'm just going to stop right there. I mean, we always think of ourselves as individual. Um, but the more I delve into the spiritual path, the more I realize that, it isn't individual, that our experiences are shared. What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I know it's interesting because a lot of people do feel lonely, but they were always, supported by those above. But what I thought is interesting, it does talk about like our groups that go. I'll talk about what it says next. So it says we liken that our group that the groups you formulate within your own individual lives, whether these be for a corporation or for a sporting team, unify to ascertain a goal that they wish to accomplish. In this way, the motivation of a group can unify a multitude of souls in a similar direction. Your schools attempt to do this, um, though many fail by the wayside. So, anyway, let me pause there. I mean, as our father was a professor at Ohio State, we've all been to many of Ohio State games. You can sense the power of the group by going to an Ohio State football game. Um, and same for, being a part of a company and things like that. So I definitely thought it was interesting that they mentioned those examples. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially sports have a way of unifying, like right now, outside of the United States, the Champions League in football is, coming to a head. And let me tell you, the whole world, really outside of the United States, is is rooting for the final four teams. And, it is a way for everyone to unite. And like you said, with the Ohio State football games, I mean, it's something you can definitely feel. It's tangible. It's in the air. But I'll go on. They continue to talk about education. So they said there are better ways to educate the young, which you shall come about shortly. We digress. We liken ourselves to birds that hover in your skies that are reptilian. Okay, so Brian, that's interesting. It's kind of like they're dragons. That's what I get from that, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what to make of that. So I don't know. I always thought that reptilians, and some books I've read in the past, that some reptilians on Earth were sort of negative beings. So these obviously are not. But what what do you make of that? Wasn't there something to that?
Yeah, I mean, supposedly, and we don't want to get into the because we're all about love and light, but yeah, supposedly the reptilians were, the ones who were really running the real government and were shadowed and not seen in real life. But
So it's
I take it,
interesting that these are now. Oh yeah, our reptilian natures are discussed within your political frameworks. I don't know what that means. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me that yeah, there's reptilians in our sky that we're not aware of.
again, I point to the news, brother. I mean, this is the real news that we're sharing, not whatever is on displaying on CNN. Um, So yeah, they said that we ask you to reconsider the general of nature of our beings. Just because we are different from your humanic selves does not make us monsters or worse. We hold humanity's ideals within our hearts. The thing I think about that with the reptilians we've read about in books that are, less than favorably cast is just like casting a broad, attribution to anything. Cats are bad, dogs are good, or whatever it is. I mean, you have to evaluate something on an individual basis, and really anything. I try and look at anything as, holding the divine spark of life, and so that everything is a positive experience. Every being I meet is, a container for love.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Definitely. So
Yes.
I'll go on, and the next one. So this is some background. So I don't know. It was a few weeks ago that we had a session on that we talked about the Great Central Sun, and in that I mentioned that sort of offhanded comment during the podcast that I don't really understand the Great Central Sun. So then they came back. So they are listening to us, and they came back. So they start off saying all sorts of stuff. They admire your tenacity and your brother's fruitfulness of achieving the altered state of being. We liken ourselves to air fairies, though these are not recognized by your peoples. We come in peace in search of greater understanding. We hope to satisfy your conditions by entering this bodily frame. And we speak now about the central sun. Your brother recently stated his knowledge of the great central sun was weak. We wish to correct this situation. All life hails from this particular planet. It's, it says if a stone was in a waterfall, the water coursing by it would be skimmed by the stone. The same is true of the great central sun. Whether you recognize its ultimate glory, your physical presence would be undetermined without the blessing gift of the ultimate one. I don't know. So they're going to try another analogy. They're talking about now ice cream cones, the cone and the material that nestles inside the cone go together the same way the light from the central sun envelops your being. Your body being the cone for the humans fail to recognize the ultimate auras which spill forth like the top of an ice cream cone. So let me pause there. So a couple different analogies. Um, so what do you make of the Great Central Sun? One thing I wasn't clear, is it just energy or is it light too? Is it the Great Central Sun providing light or just energy? Do you have any idea?
Well, I would guess both, but I don't really know. But when
Yeah.
they gave the first analogy, I didn't really understand it. So imagine like a waterfall and stones behind the waterfall and the water skimming it. So obviously the water would affect the stone, you know. I mean, it would change the shape of the stone over time. But I didn't really get that. And then when they gave me the analogy of the ice cream cone, I thought that was really interesting because they said that they didn't realize um like that our auras go so much more beyond our physical bodies. And Brian gave me this great meditation. Brian, what are those books called? By Diana Cooper. I'm gonna look it up right now. But in that they go over, so we know the seven chakras, but yeah, so this is the Archangel Guide to Ascension by Diana Cooper. These are like super powerful meditations. But anyway, she goes on to like these chakras I've never even heard of, like the cause chakra, and that are above the crown chakra. And that's what we're talking about, that like, if our bodies are the cone, it's like this energy from the great celestial sun is way above us and affecting us in ways that we can't, that we fail to recognize. What did you get from this, brother?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I know I've seen different books talk about this and how important this is. And it's just not something widely discussed. So I'm just, I'm don't I think it's helpful to be aware of it and not trying to understand it, but I'm still not totally clear on it. But it's, they're trying their best to explain it to us, which I appreciate. Um, so then they go on to say its light is ever present. Your hallowed scientists are beginning to outreach into the furthest, deepest space. They shall one day come upon the greatest glory that beheld in this universe or another. So someday scientists are going to discover this um, central sun, which I don't know when that is, but again, that would be interesting.
Yeah, and then they go on to say many ancient beings worshipped your sun, which is true. Like in I've just this trip I've been to Peru and Bolivia, and the main god is Inti, the god of the sun. And the same is true in Egypt with the time of Akhenaten. So they said that not recognizing that the greater magnitude of God's glory resided further beyond, your sun is a gift to this planet, recognized by your ancient peoples. For without the sun, nothing can grow, including humankind. The moon is a well to draw on as well. We should discuss it at a further date. We liken human beings to children who wish to have it all, not realizing the limits of their own particular circumstances. So, Brian, do you have a greater knowledge of the central sun?
A little bit, but it's interesting. Like some of those Diana Cooper, I think that in that book they also mention how just in the third dimension we just have this veil that we can't see all this other stuff around. And when you're in the fifth dimension, you can see, you know, all these being, and we're getting there, but it's going to be so different once we transition to the fifth dimension that there's that veil disappears and there's, it's so much broader than our experience today.
Yeah, and we got a recent message about that. And maybe we'll have to clue that in the next podcast about how, it you can't even fathom what the future holds, which is true in any era. Like, could you fathom being able to talk to someone, visually, or, that people are just regularly going out into space, or all of this stuff would seem in, incomprehensible years ago, and now it's just common. Um, so yeah, any more thoughts on the central sun, brother?
And not for me. No, I think that's we're doing our part to try and understand it and have pass it on to all of you. So that's all we can do.
Yeah, so I'll go on for the next message about the Federation from May 3rd, 2025. They said, we are grateful for those that hear the call and turn their gaze upwards towards the heaven. We, as your rightful partners in the Federation, look forward to further communication in this manner. There are many who speak through this vessel, and now we shall plumb the certain message best received from for the human population on Earth. We wish to regale you with stories of the past. We come now in a peaceful nature. Our gentle, loving souls are incapable of misuse of the humanic form, which has occurred on occasion in the past. Those mishaps were unintentionally destructive to the humanic form. We shall permit no harm to come to any individual. The capacity of this one is expanding, which we take delight in. You may trust that our words are sincere or true. We are incapable of lying, and the truth only slips from our minds. The feet are a fascination to us as they are created within bipodal creatures. These provide the most steadying force for the humanic form as it trudges through its solitary existence. We also hold fascination for the capabilities of the hands and the extensions known as arms and the neck. We wish for the focus to return to the face, which holds many wonders from our perspective. Our bodily forms are smaller in comparison. Our skin folds protrude from our appendages. We are likely to be seen as resembling the trunks of trees, though our coloring is a hazy blue. Okay, I got to stop there, Brian. What do you think about all of that?
So we have these beings that are fascinated with our feet, arms, and neck that are smaller, and then skin folds protrude from our appendages. I don't know what to make of that. And that they like are smaller trunks of trees. I just can't think of I think of let me see. There's some movie that I actually don't really watch those this type of movies or movies much in general, but I know there's some character called Groot on some like I don't know if it's Marvel or I don't know some,
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up.
but
Uh,
anyway, it's like a tree. But that's a trunks of trees. This is with the coloring that's hazy blue. So a hazy blue trunk of a tree with pr skin folds protruding from the appendages. I can't even, I'm trying to picture it. I mean, I appreciate it's like I think we are so close-minded. It's like, if you that thing, if you could envision it, most people would be afraid of it. Like, what is this thing that's talking that's or can communicate? So um I think we all have to get beyond that. But I think it's really interesting the different physical nature of all these beings that talk to us. And we've had discussions from underwater beings, so many different types of beings. Um,
right.
and this is just another one that is all new to me, but I welcome it and think it's really interesting.
Yeah. So I'll go on and they say, we wonder at those who manipulate the world in which you live in, which is just, let's stop at that sentence. We wonder at those who manipulate the world in which you live in. O humans, rise above and recognize the malignant forces which operate and create much of your world. We wish for you to reassemble in the rightful position of your ascension glory. So, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know
I don't,
we've talked about how, there's a shadow government and all this. There's all these r- people that are actually in control and, that don't have our best interest. And that's all the news. And I don't know. We're not going to go well into that again, but it's interesting that it's say, rise above, which is the message here.
yeah, and that's something that we try and do. That's our goal for every day.
Yes,
And
definitely.
yeah. So do you want to go on to our last message for the day?
Absolutely. So then the last one, it was from April 30th of this year, and it was talking about exactly that about rising above. So that is the subject for today's discourse, eking out an existence, sleepwalking from event to event, coursing throughout life without paying attention to what is really happening. These are commonalities which shall soon end. Amen. It's as if your train has been coursing along the track, but soon the track shall end. Have no fear or concern. This is the sorting process that shall occur for it to continue. In the same manner of the past shall not be permitted, allowed, or so. There's, then it goes on to say that those that have practiced the concept of the natural transition from the earthly to the heavenly body will be well prepared to make this transition. It's not as frightening. It's not. It shall not be frightening. Were you scared to walk down the aisles to be wed? Perhaps, but it was an exciting opportunity for friends and family to witness. Remember, you shall not be alone when you make this transition. So there's a lot to unpack there. What are your thoughts, Maureen?
There's just so much that points to this, and there's a lot of messages that we get with regards to this, and that we're getting more and more as time goes on. And I returned to the Law of One, which was probably the first, spiritual journey that we shared, the channelings of Ra, and they talk about the sorting process. And so yeah, just I mean, we know that so much in this world like doesn't really work. So, in a way, it's a positive thing. The train track is ending, and I think the big message here is that you do need to have the practice of being awake in your life, and practicing meditation and observing your thoughts, so that when the train track ends, that you're ready to easily make the transition. What are your takeaways from this message?
Yeah, I think that perfectly sums it up. So that we've talked about a lot of this in the past, and to you know I think last week's messages talked about some of this stuff too. Um, so sort of getting out of your routine and getting out of and just rising above as we've been getting these messages commonly. So again, I don't know when all this is taking place, and but they're starting to prepare us for changes that are going to occur. And so I thought we just and not it's not anything bad, right? It's like they said, it's nothing to be
No, it's
frightened of.
yeah, it's
Um,
it's all for, I mean, I really believe, and that's the great teachings of Byron Katie, is that, everything that comes to you is a gift. And if you don't see it as a gift, then you need to change your perspective. And sometimes it does, Sometimes it does. I was telling Brian, like I had something happen last week and whoa, and it took me a day to like wrap my head around it and to see how that was a gift, but absolutely it's a gift. Um, so yeah, so we leave you with that and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye, everyone.